There you are. Finally. Welcome. So someone gave you bad advice on how to get here. People can be so unreliable. Then again, I hear that's exactly the same issue you have with your cellular IoT network. No wonder they are terrible. Well, let me tell you about Wirepas 5G mesh. The very, very reliable non-cellular 5G. It's 5G for machines to talk to each other, not people. The network can be deployed and will work anywhere. No matter how remote the area or how densely populated. Because with 5G mesh, every device is a base station. That makes the network foolproof. Even my lazy husband could work it. My son Ville and his Wirepas friends are making IoT history in India. They are creating an electricity metering network of tens of millions of locations. That's a world record.
Wow.
Well, it's not like you're telling people about it. Come, let's drink coffee. You look like you need it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for attending and joining us on this webinar with our partners AetherIoT and SmartX. I'm Youssef Kamel. I'm very pleased to walk you through and moderate this webinar. But before we get started, maybe 2 words about myself. So I'm heading the smart tracking business at Wirepas, and I will walk you through very rapidly on the Wirepas offering who we are. Wirepas is specialized in massive IoT, so we are specialized in solving the problems of massive deployments for IoT networks. We offer a very large scale, and we solve the issues of affordability because the system cost is, of course, in terms of total cost of ownership, very much reduced with our mesh technology. And we also have very strong solutions to help with the scarcity of the spectrum. So very quick overview. Our headquarters are in Tampere, Finland. Wirepas is a Finnish company. Company has been established in 2010, and we're specialized in wireless massive IoT use cases. And you can see a lot of the use cases on the bottom right of your screen. We have 68 employees today. Our roots are in Tampere University, which was where the first GSM call was done back in the 1990s. We have a rich patent portfolio, and more importantly, we are focusing on establishing a large ecosystem of partners. We have more than 200 licensees, out of which from the logistics and supply chain, we have Maersk, Prologis, and many other names that you can recognize here in this slide. What we deliver is the Wirepas Connectivity Suite, which is a complete connectivity solution, which includes the connectivity itself, but also positioning, remote update, provisioning, security monitoring. So basically, in a nutshell, most of the low-level services that you need to connect your IoT devices and build successful projects. Today, we are talking about logistics. And for us, logistics is a very, very promising market with a very high total available market in terms of numbers. So really dazzling numbers here. 6.4 billion pallets in circulation today. We have 7.7 billion rigid and folding containers, and 5.3 billion devices looking for high accuracy inventory. And all of these use cases require automatic inventory, proof of liability, utilization of planning, leakage identification, process optimization. But of course, our guests here are going to say in much better words why this technology is very useful and what are the use cases that are being selected to be deployed in priority. So with this, I want to give you quick words about the agenda. So the agenda is going to consist of a keynote presentation of Greg Lee, who is the CEO of AetherIoT. Then we will follow up with a panel discussion where Carlos Ribeiro from SmartX will be also joining us. And then it will be your turn for the Q&A session. But please don't wait for the Q&A session to start asking your questions. Ask them whenever you need. You have a question button on the bottom right side of your screen. You can also use the chat box, and our moderators will also try and answer you live if there are some questions on the chat box. Okay, with this, I would like to introduce Greg Lee. As I said, Greg is the CEO of AetherIoT. He's been previously co-founder of Ascent Solution and has been responsible as a director of product management in Lockheed Martin and also in BEA, which is part of Oracle. With more than 25 years in IoT and supply chain, I'm very proud to have you, Greg, with us today. So thanks for joining. So I'll let the floor to you and to all of you. Please enjoy the presentation and the keynote from Greg.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening if you are from Asia. As you can see that my room is pretty dark. It's 12:05 a.m. over here, but I'm enjoying, going to speak to you. Myself, as Yusuf have introduced, I have 25 years experience in supply chain and various IoT technology. I started off in EXE, which is one of the best of breed, warehouse management systems, dealing with barcodes, and passive RFID, which is today part of Info. I went through the mid 2000s where Walmart and P&G created this whole big hype around RFID, and I joined Oracle at that time, BA, actually, to create a whole partner ecosystem where every single big software company, Microsoft and Sun Microsystem, all became RFID company. I was also responsible as part of Savvy Technology. And for those that know Savvy Technology, which is a Lockheed Martin company, they are one of the largest active RFID deployments for the U.S. Department of Defense in supporting the various war efforts during that time, during the Iraq and Afghan war and efforts. All right, so without further ado, a little introduction to AetherIoT. We are a solution provider, and now today we specialize in real-time location and sensor solutions. We are hardware agnostics and radio agnostics, right? So we work with multiple radio technology, including wirepass, wire mesh, GPS, ultra-wideband. However, in our sort of like a research and analysis, what we found is, a really sweet spot where wirepass fits in, which is the indoor digitalization space. We haven't found, any other technology that is so easy to deploy, completely battery operated, that is extremely scalable for massive IoT implementations, creating a low power network that allows us to connect sensors, two-way communication, and the byproduct of that is a RTLS solution which provides a roughly 3-meter accuracy around there. And what we basically do is that we specialize in the operation technology, combining various hybrid radio technology, working with heterogeneous hardware technology and providing the sensor and location data to business application. Think of us as the plumber. We do the plumbing, we create, we choose the right hardware, the radio technology, integrate them together and deliver them as a application data to software applications. And today we work with multiple software vendors, system integrators around the world, which SmartX today, has been working with us for, almost the past 6 to 8 months, and we have successfully enabled SmartX, who was traditionally dealing with RFID and BLE technology with GPS, with indoor location digitalization through location systems and sensors today. Now, today's topic, which I'm going to cover is, how do we leverage this RTLSS, which is a new term that we combine. It is RTLS, which is we are very familiar, but we add the sensor bit to it because we find that there is a huge sort of advantage of combining location and sensor data. And what we're going to do is that we're going to apply this to real-time transport, reusable transport containers, right? We call them RTCs. Some of you may call them RTPs, reusable transport packaging. But I think of packaging as more of carton boxes. Containers are more like your pallets, roll cages, dollies, and things like that. So what are the challenges that is facing today's supply chain, right? The past, most of you would agree that the past 2 years has been very, very challenging for the supply chain. Shortage of components, shortage of manpower, due to the trade war, due to the pandemic. So uh, a lot of the supply chain are looking at ways to optimize and becoming more efficient to become to be relevant and to be able to compete in the new norm or the new economy. Now, a lot of the issues that we find within the supply chain is human errors, failure to update your locations, updating the wrong information, and due to the manpower constraint, this caused a lot of misplaced assets or misplaced items within the facilities. And the research found that there are, most companies, waste about 3,000 man hours just, looking for all these misplaced assets. They're supposed to be on your receiving dock, you place them into your rack, and you forgot to update them or you update them wrongly, and now this pallet is somewhere lost in your warehouse. You spend hours trying to locate these pallets of items in the facilities. There are also issues with safety. In the US alone, there are approximately 20,000 workers that are injured by forklift. These are things that can be prevented through solutions that we can implement through collision avoidance. And finally, all this lack of data give you optimal decision making decisions. Without data, you will not be able to improve your process. The ability to provide real-time and sensor data into your business application opens up a whole new world of business data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning that a lot of the um, business application today claims. But how do they get the data to their platform to do all this? This is where we come in to help them deliver the data that they need to perform all this wonderful AI ML data analytics, right? So in the past 10 or 15 years, the supply chain has gone through massive digitalization, automation. From the early days of barcoding, many of them have gone on to RFID, and RFID is commonplace in many supply chain logistic warehouse factories today. However, RFID alone, as you might know, will give you perhaps a 97, 98% accuracy. There is still a 2 to 3% error rate on RFID. And why is that so? Because a lot of times RFID is dependent on the human taking a RFID handheld going around scanning. When you have humans involved, there's bound to be human errors. They forget to update, they misscan, they key in the wrong information, and in some other places, you might be able to implement fixed gantries, but fixed gantries, may not guarantee you 100% read rate. There's always an error rate. And if you're familiar with the baggage tracking in the airports, you notice that there's always an exception handling. Things that can't be read are directed to, a different lane for manual tracking. So with RFID, you cannot expect 100% accuracy. And how do you deal with all this exception? How do you address these gaps that you know that causes a lot more issues? If I can't get 100% read rate, I might as well just recount them, and that's a waste of time. And that's where the Walmart initiative failed, because they were expecting 100% read rate when you push a pallet through a gantry, and you can't get that. Then you end up having to recount, which is a duplication of effort. But the past 10, 15 years, we have understood how to use RFID much better. We realize that the expectation of RFID will never be 100% and implement a exception handling case for RFID implementation to to improve this as part of the whole entire workflow. So here we can see that barcodes and RFID. RFID is just a more advanced of barcoding. RFID could give you read large amount of text without line of sight, but basically it's still an automated identification technology, and that gives you a certain percentage of error-free transactions, which is probably around 97 to 98%. And now you have to deal with that 2 to 3% errors, which is where we are advocating the RTLS system to address and complement these gaps. So here we talk about what are RTCs, right? RTCs are things in your supply chain assets that used to carry items around. They could be your normal pallets, it could be a roll cage, it could be a dolly. And today, most of the RTCs are not tracked. So a dolly that is holding, say 8 individual boxes that has RFID tag, we could place a active RFID tag. So here, let me clarify. When we talk about RFID, we're talking about the passive RFID, which costs, couple of tens of cents, versus, active radio tag, which is capable of RTLS and sensors. All right. What passive RFID is not capable of doing is it cannot provide real-time location, and it cannot provide intelligent sensors. So we are putting a active radio tag that's capable of providing real-time location systems as well as incorporating sensors technology. Now, with what we advocate is, while it may be too expensive or impractical to tag every item with a active radio tag to provide real-time location, you know because these items are single use, they are not within the closed loop. RFID is still the best choice, but what we can do is to associate what you have on your pallet and put an active radio tag to provide location. So what does this allow you to do? It allows you to minimize your RTC losses. It reduces the errors. It provides end-to-end visibility, and you can incorporate sensors to there. And finally, all this information can give you the data for your business analytics. We'll go into some of these points, more in detail. So today, a lot of times, RTCs get lost or misplaced. I wouldn't say they're lost. I mean, no one would steal a pallet or something like that. But a lot of times, these are things that are misplaced. They are somewhere in the facility. However, because we can't find them, So we start purchasing more and more. In many of these facilities, you find that the asset utilizations of the RTCs are very low. I have a customer who is in the airport, right? And they have like 8,000 of the airport dollies that's used to move the ULDs and luggage around, and they have an issue that their utilization rate is only about 20 to 30%. A lot of times these dollies are somewhere on the airport ground. They can't find it. They end up buying more and more. I have another customer who is in the supermarket chain. They use roll cages to deliver from their distribution centers to their retail chain. Again, they have an issue of where are my roll cages? Where can I find them? When I need them, they're not there, right? So they end up purchasing more and more of these RTCs, which results in very, very low utilization, which is a which is uh whi- which is terribly inefficient, right? And we can try to do tracking to provide higher utilization rate for this supply chain assets. The second thing is that we talk about reducing errors. Earlier we spoke about, RFID may give you about 97, 98%. Now, what happens when you forget to update the pallet moving into your racks, your storage racks, or you update with the wrong location? While we can say that, we can put a RFI, active RFID tag the on the pallet. So what happens if we forget to update? Then at least we can find the location of the pallet in the warehouse. So this is something which we can then complement that gap, that 2 to 3% gap, just in case when you misplace or misupdate or update it wrongly, we still have a way to trace where that pallet location is within the warehouse. And that could save you hours to try to locate these pallets within the warehouse. So a lot of times when the RFID gives you this error rate, at least we have a fail-safe mechanism to track where the pallets are. And once we track where the pallets are, we know what cartons are on the pallets because you have already done the association in the first place. The third thing that we can do with RTLS is that, again, through that nested visibility concept, we put RFID tags on your cartons and items, but we tag them with active RFID tag that can give you real-time location. But when they move around on the truck, this is where GPS and cellular comes into play. Now we have successfully built a reader that can be integrated to a GPS tracker on board the truck, which can read the pallets that is the back of the truck. So you get the end-to-end visibility as you move from location A on the road to location B. So not only do you have indoor location visibility, but you also have outdoor location visibility to provide end-to-end visibility across your supply chain. Now, some of the things that we can do once we have a uh, active RFID tag, which is battery powered, is that we can add a lot of intelligent sensors to it, which RFID alone cannot do. So, for example, in the cold chain of perishables, we can add temperature humidity sensors to it. We can even add sensors to determine whether the the pallet or dolly is being used by implementing weight and pressure sensors. So we know the status of the sensors. So not only do we provide location, but we also provide the sensor state. Whether what is the environmental temperature humidity of this perishable or cold chain item that we're tracking, whether we use laser sensors to understand whether they are being filled, or we use weight sensors to understand whether they are being whether they are used. At the same time, we not only just use sensors, but we combined with other radio technology. So some of the examples that we have successfully also implemented is to turn on ultra wideband. Now, the Wirepas technology is based on BLE technology, right? Using RSSI and things like that. It can give you roughly around a 3 to 5 meter accuracy. In some cases, it may require additional, more precise location. This is where ultra wideband comes in. And by combining ultra wideband, we are able to provide sub-meter accuracy, for example, finding of a small tools on in the shelf, or earlier we talked about accident prevention, collision avoidance. This is where outright ban can comes into play, which allows you to know that you are exactly within 1 meter of a forklift and give you the alarm. All this information again gets transmitted through the very, very good IoT systems of Wirepas, right? Through a mesh network, which is very easy to. So what happens is that we incorporate the mesh technology and we incorporate various sensor data, combining various information. Now, one of the other interesting use cases that I have recently been working on is in the area of consignment goods. Some of you that are in the supply chain will understand that there is a huge issue with consignment goods. Consignment goods are extremely difficult to manage because the you place them in hospitals, you place them in retail mall, and you have little or no visibility. What we're building is a battery operated, smart shelf to read the RFID tags, once or twice a day to give you the inventory at the start, at the end of the day, and then transmit this over the wireless network to the backend to give you your real-time inventory position for consignment goods that you have deployed in various locations in retail stores or in healthcare, which uses a lot of consignment products. So finally, as I said, with all this information that is feeding to the platform, you can then do predictive maintenance. You can, optimize and increase your asset turns, your asset utilizations of the RTCs. You can even optimize. Now, one of the things that I like to see is that have today you see that GPS has become ubiquitous in our lives, right? When GPS was opened up about 20 years ago. And today we rely on GPS outdoors, to get from point A to point B. We use GPS to check our deliveries. We use GPS to find out, when our food is coming through Uber Eats and things like that. Now, GPS doesn't work indoors. Now, through this system, we are basically creating, indoor GPS systems. And hopefully one day, everything that you do indoor is going to be as ubiquitous. Everything that you do is going to be similar to what you do outdoors today with GPS system as in indoors, which is now today what we see as a high growth area for indoor digitalization systems. So finally, before I end, this is how we incorporate a GPS tracker on the truck, and we can read all the pallets that's the back of the truck. Now, some of you that are in fleet management system will know that using regular BLE, you're going to have a lot of issues trying to read the number of tags at the back of the truck because of the range, because of the limitations of BLE. Now, Wirepas Mesh does not have these issues because the things that the back of the truck can easily hop itself to the front of the truck. And in fact, it can read easily hundreds or thousands of pallets at the back of the truck with temperature humidity sensors. And this is one of the things that, today I was presenting, 2 months ago at a telematics conference, and I was showing this technology to people who are in fleet management, and they were excited about this technology, how we can use a wire mesh technology to solve what BLE cannot do today on vehicles. So if you have any questions and things like that, feel free to then put in your questions. Otherwise, you can also contact me on LinkedIn or on our website. All right, thank you very much, and I hope this is very informative for you.
Thank you very much, Greg, for a very informative session. I think everybody has recognized the great experience that you guys have in logistics and your capability to actually combine the various RF technology to provide the best system to your customer. So once again, please don't hesitate to continue posting your questions. We will definitely have them addressed after the panel discussion that we are starting now. But before starting, I would like to introduce you to Carlos Ribeiro, who is the CEO of SmartX Hub. Maybe, Carlos, would you like to say a few words introducing yourself?
Yes, thanks everybody. Yes, I'm here in US. We have a global operation. As Greg told, we are working on this solution for a long time. We completely integrated to our end user environment, so it's available in several continents to be deployed. And we are in the business since 2014. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining this panel discussion. So we are going to move to this panel discussion. And my first question is for you first, Greg, and of course, feel free to compliment Carlos. So within the various logistics use cases, and of course, we know there are so many logistics use cases, where do you see a better fit for your RTLSS system based on Wirepas over RFID?
All right. So to answer the question, I'll say that RFID and RTLS are in two different classes of radio. RFID cannot provide real-time location systems throughout the whole facilities, right? Yes, I mean they can provide real-time location at certain choke points in the door. They can provide very accurate. I think Zebra has got a reader that it can even give you like three-dimensional state, close to their RFID reader. But again, you cannot be putting this RFID throughout your whole entire facility.
Exactly.
The second is that RFID, yes, they do support very basic sensors. Some of you may have seen RFID tags on adult diapers in hospitals. They know that it's wet or not wet, but it can't go beyond that kind of state because it doesn't have a battery inside. So there are limitations in terms of sensors that you can incorporate into a passive RFID tag. So if you do not require real-time location throughout your whole facility, then stick with passive RFID because they do the job very well. We would not try to force feed a RTLS system when you don't need it. But if you really do need a RTLS system to cover and have real-time location, whether it's 3 to 5 meters or sub-meter accuracy using ultra-wideband or other technology, then you really require a RTLS system and not RFID. And if you require, intelligent sensors like temperature, humidity sensing, depth, or other controls and things like that, then you need something which is a RTLS system. So we're talking about two different things. It's either you need it or you don't need it, right? So if you have a business requirement that requires real-time tracking throughout your whole facility, coupled with sensors, then RFID is not going to work for you.
Yes, I would like to say that we have real customers, especially in oil and gas industry and manufacturing facilities, where they have some horizontal warehouse also. So it's very complex to find it. It's hundreds and hundreds of square meters to locate a single part. And in this case, I have a case that the guy make the factory, the mining company stopped it for 4 hours looking for a part. So this is a perfect situation where we cannot use RFID. It's very complex to track and trace parts in certain environments. Only RTLS can solve it. And also we have cases that they don't need to do like a typical working process where you have a line, a very singular line, where it's quite easy to place some antennas on the flow of the material. But if you have a chaotic environment in a manufacturer where the parts can move from one place to another, it's almost impossible to track. So in these two particular cases, I see good opportunities also in the hospital business. I think there's a huge potential to grow in the hospital business because it's really very affordable now, either the tag and either the solution.
Okay, thank you very much both for your answers here. Very insightful. So then the second question is very linked to the first one. So if you project yourself going forward, do you see a kind of a progressive replacement of RFID by RTLS systems, or do you think both technologies will coexist in the future?
Well, I do not see, RTLS or RFID getting replaced. RFID is a cheap, it costs you a couple of cents to implement. They are great for supply chain assets or supply chain items which are single use that you slap on a label, RFID inlay label, pallet label, and and on the cartons, and it goes out. So the RTLS, while has come down a lot in price, it used to be really, really expensive to implement an RTLS system. And today with the BLE technologies and the battery life, it has come down a lot. However, I don't see that you'll be able to place an active radio tag on a item level. Not at that point. It will never reach that area where you, other than the cost, it's also the label that is involved. I mean, every time that the items get shipped out, you have to remove the tags, and so what we see is RFID, working complementing, or rather RTLS complementing the RFID. And through this nested visibility concept where we use the right technology at the right level, right? So item cartons are mostly tagged with RFID, whereas reusable supply chain assets like your roll cages or your pallets and things like that stays within a closed loop could be implemented with the RTLS, unless we are talking about very, very high value assets like in oil and gas and in aerospace remanufacturing. Perhaps in those cases it makes sense to put an active radio tag on it. Otherwise, RFID still rules in most supply chain sort of like solutions.
Yes, I agree with Greg. And what we provide is an environment where you can use barcode, BLE, RFID, mesh technology, everything together. Then we are more flexible to manage the customer use case. I think that RFID, normally I used to say if the asset is less than $100, normally RFID is too expensive also. But now I can say after $1,000 the piece, probably we will apply RTLS active tags, because you need to protect this kind of assets. So they will survive bothly, but the RTLS will replace a lot of business in RFID, especially in asset inventory, asset management, and maintenance management. And also RFID is not able to really track the movements or vibrations or things like that in real time for certain maintenance. So it will be replaced completely in this case in the near future. My vision, only for asset management, let's say, it will replace.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you're bringing excellent points, both Greg and Carlos, and thanks. And I'm actually aligned with this. In reality, the introduction of RTLS systems based on Wirepas technology, especially the fact that you have this wireless infrastructure that is battery operated, that enables deployments at fairly large scale and deployments fairly everywhere, actually does not replace the RFID, but actually includes or introduces new use cases and extends the capability of tracking to really new use cases and basically enlarges the market. So I totally agree with you guys. Okay, so the next question to you, Carlos, this time to get started. So what do you see are the main challenges to enable these RTLSS systems to be deployed in terms of, I mean, do you have challenges in installation, retrofit? Are there some issues about legacy management, IT integration? Can you walk us through, the journey?
Yes, I think that the first step for all kind of project is to understand the problem to solve. I think this is the major problem that we face. So customer needs to know that we can solve certain kinds of process, not maybe all of them. So a blueprint is very necessary where you have at least the scope very detailed. What I like in this technology is the simplicity to deploy. We can do proof of concept. We can do try and buy in less than a week, everything running. I have customers that we can do remotely testing the software together with the real-time location. They said, move to left, you move to the right. So we can do things like that. What with other technologies like RFID is quite impossible. I think that we have some considerations in terms of infrastructure to place the anchors, the nodes, and things like that. There's a technical training to be done, especially high roofs and things like that. But in a normal business, I can say 85% or almost 9% of the facility is quite easy to deploy it. I have a good experience for certain customers that is replacing some kind LoRa technology and some kind of sensors or Wi-Fi because of the connectivity, the wire that need to go to each sensor. Everything is replaceable for battery powered. So it's quite easy. The customer asks us, how much time you needed to put 9 soccer games warehouse? I say, 2 days, maximum 2 days, maybe one. No, it's almost impossible. How much is the life of the battery? I said 5 to 8 years. He said, I don't believe. So things like that, it's our friend in terms of selling a project. My experience is something that I test normally with 1 to 2 months doing site surveys and things like that. We can narrow it to 2-3 days maximum. Some cases, just 1 day is more than enough to do the proof of concept. Always the IT has another thing. Some companies has always problems with IT to approve things. When we enter talking about RTLS, I say, I can just need one internet access point and the rest will be done. No, explain me better, because they normally face a lot of complexity to install things. In a hospital environment, it's always a problem to place hardware there. So you only can do on Sunday night if the surgical room is not being used and things like that. So this is another thing that's make our life much easy using RTLS. We can do remotely. We can just say, okay, enter there and put on the corner of the wall, and we have the site survey done. So I don't see too many challenges in terms of starting a project or a proof of concept in a customer with the new technology.
Thank you, Carlos. Anything you want to add, Greg?
Yeah, so I think, in talking to a lot of customers, and especially people who are, on the software side, who has a very good experience in developing software platform, they have a serious IT and OT gap over there. And I face a lot of companies who would try to implement IoT solutions using ESP32 chipsets and on a Wi-Fi, and they create sensors. They tend to kind of think that IoT is an extension of a mobile app on their mobile phone. And and while it does work, I mean, of course, we know that it doesn't scale. You cannot be connecting an IoT device on a Wi-Fi connectivity, like a client app and things like that. I also find a lot of people who are looking at I think due to lack of understanding of the market of availability of technology, they tended to use LoRa for everything. So LoRa, we know, works great when it's outdoor, agriculture, smart cities, and things like that. Now, once you go into indoor, where you have a lot of concretes and things like that, LoRa starts to fail because it cannot go around corners. There are a lot of blind spots. There are concrete walls and rooms and things like that. And this is where we introduce them to a mesh technology using short hops, and it's just as simple as plugging in another anchor node just to go around a blind spot and things like that, rather than on the LoRa you have to go around and check where the coverage is, and things like that. So and again, at the end of the day, what I would like to say is that um today it's impossible to do everything on your own. So for the business people, they are focused on the business app, focus on the business, and leave the plumbing and understanding of the wireless technology and hardware to the people who like ourselves, and work with IoT experts, and not try to do everything on your own, because it's not possible to do that anymore in today's economy. Or and yeah.
Yeah, very good comment, Greg. I fully agree. I think this is it goes so much faster to use experts to actually deploy your own solution. So that's very important. Also, I think what you've just said regarding the comparison of various technologies, it just comforts us in our thinking that there is no solution that fits all of the use case. RFID has specific strength, and of course, it will continue being used. LoRa or other long-range technologies also have some strength, and then of course, when it comes to high-density network, battery-operated infrastructure, of course, you have the Wirepas mesh system that, of course, scales very nicely in industrial environment. And Carlos, thanks for insisting on the simplicity of installation and deployment. So this is all, of course, in line. Now, my last question to both of you is really going forward and maybe projecting ourselves in the future. What do you see as enablers for faster adoption of these systems? Maybe Carlos, would you like to start?
Yes, I think that the demands that we are receiving a lot is basically asset tracking, asset inventory for big facilities, and especially in the warehouses with expensive assets. This is, I think, will be number one. The second one is people safety. More and more, the people are concerned about people safety, evacuation, monitoring, roll call, things like that. What we can easily deploy in less than 1 week, another solution to monitor these things. And I think that for schools, bus, and other school bus, things like that, will appears again in the agenda of the security. I think that this will be more the next to big market for this kind of solution.
Yeah, we see a lot of market traction in the area of remanufacturing for aerospace, for oil and gas, for work in progress, where they need to track where these parts are and reassemble them together. We also see a lot of traction in all these high value assets in pharmaceuticals and healthcare, perishable. And one of the other things is cold chain management is another huge aspect. We have a couple of projects that is trying to track um, um, things that are in chiller rooms, and as they move through their facilities into their final destination, tracking them on trucks. So these are some of the areas where we see there's a lot of growth in terms of RTLS.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you, for the very good and lively discussion. It's been very interesting. I hope everyone in the audience have appreciated. It's now time for your questions. Maybe I will start just by browsing on the chat window, and it looks like there has been a few questions regarding the accuracy of the system when you use Wirepas, and also how the metal distribution affects the accuracy, and so on and so forth. So maybe just a rough guide. So first of all, there is a guideline that I shared in the chat window. So there is a link that you can click on and providing you with a dimensioning guide for your project. So it gives you information about how to place the anchors, what are the number of anchors that you need to place in a given area, and also gives you some information about battery consumption and battery lifetime of specific tags. Don't hesitate to look into that. Now, regarding what is the reliability of the inventory, as Greg has mentioned, Wirepas features high density inventory, which is extremely accurate and can work for a very high number of tags. And the other element is that when you look at the accuracy for real-time location systems, as Greg and Carlos said, of course the Wirepas is not built for sub-meter accuracy. So the typical accuracy you get is 3 meters, and of course this can be affected if you have a lot of metals, etc. But the good news is that you don't miss the signals, because Wirepas mesh actually can actually even benefit from those reflections in the metallic environment. So the network reliability is extremely good. Of course, in terms of accuracy, because it's based on RSSI, it will have some. Of course, if you are in a metallic environment, it will have some effects on the accuracy. Now I leave the floor to all of you. Are there any further questions from the audience? I see no more questions here. Maybe a question from my side to you, Greg. In terms of maturity and time for deployment, so is your solution already available to go to market now for customers that want to engage in projects immediately?
I'll say yes. I mean that the basic stuff, which is just real-time location tracking, finding where they are. I mean that is something that is readily off the shelf. But what we are doing with Wirepas is to go to more enhanced use case. Incorporating a battery-operated RFID reader that is good for taking inventory of consignment stocks. Incorporating things like a temperature humidity sensors, laser ranging sensors to find out the state of the assets. So so incorporating more intelligent sensors around the Wirepas technology, because if you just talk about location tracking, that's simply anchors and tags, and that is something that is ready to go. But how do we then get more of this intelligent state of what you are tracking? Yeah, is what
Yes,
we're
and
working on.
yeah, we have the solution ready, completely integrated. I deployed yesterday in 1 hour in Mexico. I already deploy a site survey solution in Dubai. So we have partners that are now working with the solution, and we offer it for monitoring temperature in a warehouse. Based on that, we are using your technology also to track people in oil and gas in a very big project. We signed the contract last Friday, so will be a very important project for indoor and outdoor. So it's completely available for certain use case, asset tracking, monitoring, movement detection, man down detection, also par levels and stock control. Everything is ready to be deployed in any country.
Very good to hear, Carlos. Congratulations for your success. I have another question, maybe for both of you. So, do you have a business relationship between SmartX and AetherIoT?
Oh yes, I mean that we enable SmartX. So we are enabler, and SmartX basically takes the Wirepas that we deliver them the the real-time location and sensor data. And again, the other thing is that SmartX is largely in the US, and I'm based in Singapore, so there's a lot of things that I can also collaborate with Carlos on in areas which we are in different regions.
Yeah, I can say that Greg is our IoT center in Singapore.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, it's always refreshing to hear companies collaborating around the Wirepas technology, because this is exactly how we see the deployment model is. A number of companies are required to cooperate to make very successful IoT projects. Okay, so it looks like we have some technical questions here on the chat. What I can do is really about trying to summarize all of these questions and reply to them after this session. And of course, I can also guide all our audience towards the developer portal of Wirepas if you need to have a look at our documentation. And please don't hesitate to contact me directly if you have questions. And then, of course, in the chat window, I see that Vincent has posted a link. Please use it if you want to learn more about the collaboration between AetherIoT and Wirepas. And with this, I want to thank everyone. Of course, this recording will be available after the webinar, and it will be online. And you should be receiving an email with the address of the recording. And please stay tuned. We are going to announce a few many projects with our partners very soon. So thank you very much. Greg, Carlos, would you like to say a few words to conclude this session?
Well, yeah, so maybe I'll just say a few words. So first and foremost, I think Wirepas is a very good wireless communication technology, low powered, battery operated. The RTLS portion, which we're talking about today, is actually a byproduct of this technology. So first and foremost, it's the wireless communication. And because we can put the anchors as locators and using RSSI, okay, to provide a fairly accurate location systems around 3 to 5 meters. But of course, as I mentioned during my presentation, we can always incorporate other technologies like UWB that give you sub-meter precision onto Wirepas. So it's as simple as they have a Wirepas wireless network, which is great for massive IoT. Now, if you are not happy with the, satisfied or the accuracy is not to the requirement, we can always switch it out and substitute with a different location technology. In fact, we can even put it outside with GPS, with UWB, any other location technology riding on this wireless network. Okay,
very good point, Greg.
Yeah, so the RTLS is something which, like I said, it happens to be there, and we like it because it's simple to use. But there are other things that we can always substitute if it's not, if it doesn't meet the requirement. In a heavy metal environment, I work with one customers and I told them, this Wirepas location is not going to work in that environment. You need something more accurate in that kind of environment. Why not we incorporate ultra wideband?
And this is where we need expertise for every project. So with this, I see that we are really reaching the conclusion time for this webinar. Once again, thank you so much to our participants, Greg and Carlos. And thanks to all of you for your great attention and active contribution to your questions. Excellent to have you with us. And of course, please stay tuned.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.